Time to start. Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Daise.
And yes, I'm Natalie Daise.
And thank you for joining us this evening. We would like to thank the South Carolina Arts Commission for their support of this evening's performance. The Quarantunes music series would not have been possible without the Folklife Partnership grant the Arts Commission provides McKissick Museum to amplify their traditional arts programs.
So we want to thank you for joining us on We've Been Coming a Long Time, because we actually have. This is a review of some of the songs and stories we've been singing. We've been singing together since 1983. The first time I ever saw Ron, he was singing in church, and I began singing with him probably within the month or so.
That's right.
May, June of 1983, and we've been singing together ever since.
Yeah, I sang her down the aisle.
He sang me down the aisle when we got married. He did. And I joined him at a certain point. We had a duet. We were so cute. So let's see. Well, the first program that we began to do was based on Ron's book. His book was called
Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage.
Yeah, and so he wrote a piece called Sea Island Montage. And that was our very first performance. No, actually, our very first performance was Christian music. Together we had a trio called Encouragement.
Right.
And then we began doing historic and cultural music. And we used to always start our historic and cultural programs with this song.
We've been coming a long time. Oh, yes. We've been coming a long time. Oh, yes. We've been coming a long time. Coming a long time. Coming a long time. Oh, yes. We had trials on the way. Oh, yes. We had trials on the way. Oh, yes. We had trials on the way. Trials on the way. But we've been coming a long time. Oh, yes. We had trials along the way, just like many people who are protesting on the streets of our country and throughout the world this day. Now, Natalie mentioned Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage. The book was laid out, the historical photographs, the oral histories of Sea Islanders, Gullah people, and also songs were laid out with the words of a poem that I wrote called Forgotten Moments. Only few remember. A history of a people has been hushed, been stilled, yet only few weep. Only few sing the old songs or recall precious moments. Time, progress, and short-sightedness are silencing a heritage. Precious memories, though, are like the lyrics of old slave songs. They should not be stored up in the minds of a few. No, they should linger from generation to generation, lending meaning to the past, nurturing strength and hope for the future.
Well, Ron was actually writing that book when I met him. He actually loaned me the master. That's back when, you had it typed and you had a carbon, y'all. It wasn't saved number, and I kept it.
She sure did. I would ask, are you finished? And you would say,
no. I wanted him to keep coming back and asking for it until I was ready to give it back. By then I knew he's gonna keep coming back anyway. You know how it is. But there was a song that we sang when we did this performance, and it was one that has been on my mind a lot lately. It's just a song that's an old song, but it reminds us that joy is our heritage. We were born into the birthright of joy, and nobody can take that from us.
This is joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. This is joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. Oh no, this is joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me.
I tell you,
the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This peace that I have. The world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have. The world didn't give it to me. Oh no, this peace that I have. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh no, this peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. I'm telling you, the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Peace, joy, love. Now, there's an expression, and other people say, but you got to make sure that you don't do anything that make you pitch your religion down. And there were many things in the Gullah community that you were informed about to make you avoid coming into any of those kinds of conditions. One of those was making sure that you respect your elders. Respecting elders still is very important, and it's believed that you should never disrespect an elder because he or she may have the power to put the mount on you. That's a curse of unfavorable circumstances which old folks are said to be able to administer by looking at you real angry like, sometimes out of only one eye, and then by pointing a finger threateningly in your direction. Sometimes, even on the streets as they are today, getting old, an elder, let them do that. See what happens then. And there was another, there was a belief in Gullah communities. Trees could do magic. They would take branches of palmetto frond. You put one frond on either side of the neck of an individual who was accused of telling a lie. And you would say, tie, palmetto, tie. And if that person began to had told a lie, those leaves would start twining together. So you should not do that. That could make someone put religion down. And there was a song that we would sing about that importance. Here comes Sister Mary, coming with a broom in her hand. Sweep, Sister Mary, sweep, sweep clean the way to the promised land. Oh, I know I got religion, so glad. I know I got religion, so glad. I know I got religion, so glad. And the world can't do me no
Now, see, when I'm a come ya. And by that I mean I was born in upstate New York. I can't help that. That's where my mama was. I had to be where she was when I was born. And I moved to Beaufort County in 1983. Caught the Greyhound bus. I said I was gonna come down for 2 weeks because my grandma was sick. My family had married into a family from St. Helena, which turned out to be part of his family, on the other side. You know how it is. Everybody related, sort of. And so I came down and I stayed. And my Uncle Simeon, who I love dearly, I was staying in a little trailer out across the yard. Simeon Middleton, yeah. And he would tell me these stories. I'd be over at the house with him, and he would tell me these stories. And I had to go across the dark yard, and I was scared. And one of the things he would tell me about was the coach whip snake. Now, I ain't like snakes, no how. And the coach whip was a particularly scary kind of snake because the coach whip was a very long snake that would form a circle by taking its tail in its mouth, forming a hoop. And then it would roll after you like that, just roll after you to catch you. Now, if the coach whip caught you, it would twine its body around you and wrap you up tight, but it would leave its tail free so that it could whip you to death. Mm-hmm. So he would tell me these stories, and then it's not like he had lights in the yard. And then I had to go. I swear I thought it was an acre.
No, not an acre. Not an acre.
To the trailer.
Not near an acre.
But I was scared, and but and there were other stories as well, and other songs. Ron and I have been really blessed to have known some elders who we learned from. It's funny, weird, because now we're the elders. But many years ago, we would travel sometimes with Doug and Frank Quimby of the Georgia Sea Island Singers, and with Janie Hunter, the movie star Hall Singers, mm-hmm. And we would sit up under them. And there was one song I learned. I think it was from Frankie, but it was a children's ring sing song, and I've used it when I tell a story. I just put the song in because I like it. It's Aunt Jenny cornbread, sweet, sweet, sweet. Eat some and leave some, sweet, sweet, sweet. Aunt Jenny cornbread, sweet, sweet, sweet. Eat some and leave some, sweet, sweet. Eat some and leave some, sweet, sweet. Yeah, like children would use it for ring sings, when they go outside and do ring sings like Sally Over the Water, or even hand games like Miss Mary Mack. And, that was back before you had, digital entertainment. And so you had to go outside and make your own fun. And one thing that Ron used to do as a kid was go outside and catch a June bug. Big old bug.
Fig
eater. Tie a string around it. And then just like, so this was big fun. This was like, you didn't have a drone, but you had a bug.
Right.
And this is just some of the ways, that children just made their own fun.
And part of storytelling, which is important to Gullah heritage. Sometimes it's important to put songs, add music to mm-hmm. the stories. There is a story. Who knows the Gullah word for a turtle? It is kuda.
Kuda.
Comes from an African word, kuda. But when we were telling the story of the talking kuda actually could talk, would include a song, and just made up song, because when that kuda would begin to play, and it had its own fiddle, it would go
when I go, I do a lot. In the past, I did a lot of arts and education, a lot of schools, and I would do that, and the kids would get, really excited about doing that with me. I have no idea what's going to happen now. Maybe we'll be doing it like we're doing this. But actually, if you think about kids stuff, eventually we began to do other kids stuff, and a lot of you may know of that. Mm-hmm. Back in 1990.
Right, 1994 is when we began.
Yeah, so 92, mm-hmm. 92 or 93 is when, we first began talking about it. We met us woman, her name was Maria Perez, who would come down to St. Helena Island, and she was working on another project, but she had been looking to pitch shows to Nickelodeon that were multicultural, and she met us and said, hey, maybe we can do a show about you. Yeah, and we were like, yeah, right, sure. I was pregnant with our second child, Simeon. We really didn't take her seriously. But a few months later, she called and said, can you come to New York? And by then I was 9 months pregnant. So I was like, nah.
You could not get on there.
So she and her partner, Kathy Minton and Kit Laybourne, flew down into Charleston, hired a local guy, and followed us for a day. It's funny because she said they got to Beaufort. They didn't know where we lived. They just stopped somebody on the street. And at that time, Beaufort was the kind of town where you could stop somebody on the street and say, do you know Ron and Natalie? They'd be, yeah, they live over there. So they followed us around. I was very pregnant. I felt like I was wearing a circus tent. I don't know why I picked that shirt with the polka dots on it.
Yeah, what the big black polka dots.
But and ultimately we ended up with the TV show.
And what was the name of that show? Gullah Gullah Island. And wherever we perform, even when we were out in the community, people come up and they want to sing the song, but more important, they want us to sing the song. Well, now is your opportunity. We won't be able to hear you, but hopefully you'll be singing along. Come and let's play together in the bright sunny weather. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Lots to see and to do there. All we need now is you there. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Just take your foot in your hand. That means hurry up. Don't miss the good things that we planned. So come and let's play together in the bright sunny weather. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Gullah Gullah Island. Gullah Gullah Island. Want to give a shout out to Fracaswell Hyman. He was the head writer of the TV show the first few years, and we are so glad that that show became a success.
And I loved Kaz because he came down to St. Helena to Beaufort County and he hung out with us for about a week, and he said, I know you're not actors, don't worry about it. You be yourself and we'll work around you. And that just made it so easy. Yeah, so thank you. I don't know if you're watching this, Kaz, but thank you. You are a hero.
We want to get, let's see, just a shout out for the celebration going on today, because today is what holiday? Juneteenth. Absolutely right. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation was heard in South Carolina, in Beaufort County, on January 1st, 1863. But that was not emancipation for everyone, every enslaved person. This, in the 1800s, that was not the time of Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. Messages could not fly hither, thither, and yon. And the troops did not get out to Texas until almost 2.5 years later, in 1865, where the Emancipation Proclamation was there read to Texans, the last enslaved people in the states of the Confederacy, for whom freedom was proclaimed. And one of the songs, or some of the songs, I'm sure, that those who heard those words, not even with an understanding maybe of this proclamation, the words of it, but they knew one of those words, freedom. And this is a song I'm sure many of them had in mind. No more auction block for me, no more, no more. No more auction block for me, many thousand gone. No more pint of salt for me, no more, no more. No more pint of salt for me, many thousand gone. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. No more 100 lives for me, no more, no more. No more 100 lives for me, many thousand gone, many thousand gone. Many thousand gone, many thousand gone. Free as a bird I would be. God done set me free.
We've sort of made our life singing the songs that we learned from the elders, telling the stories that we learned from them.
And one of those stories was the hag story.
Oh,
I'm sure they would love hearing that. We got about 10 minutes left.
We got time for the hag. Okay, all right. So yeah, this is one of the stories that I learned.
From me.
From Ronald, right. I hadn't heard about the hag for, so, okay, you may or may not know what a hag is, but let me tell you what it's like to encounter a hag, because then, you might be like, oh, I know what a hag is. So you ever wake up at night feeling like you have a weight or a pressure on you, like something's holding you down in the bed? You're awake, you can't move, you can't call out, you can't cry. You just like, some folks say that if you felt that way, it's because a hag is riding you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's believed that a hag is an ordinary member of the community who has the power to shed his or her skin, like just peel it off, step out of it. And then they can either change form or become invisible and torment folk by riding them at night, like just actually sitting on their chest, leaning over, holding them down. Yeah. Scary feeling. Now, of course, folk were concerned about this, and a lot of folk were said, if you could figure out who a hag was, that would help. And how you could protect yourself from a hag. I mean, some people believed if you salted a hag, the hag wouldn't get back in its skin and it could die. Some people said, you should cuss or pray, but it'd be good if you could identify them before the problem happened. And so some people believe that a hag sold their victims' blood for profit. So if you knew of a supposedly poor neighbor, friend, somebody who didn't have a job or had just a little piece of a job, my mama would say, no real, not really working, never hit a lick at the stick, just didn't have any. And yet they had a lot of unexplained cash. Could be a hag. So there was this woman on the island who thought her neighbor was a hag. Had two reasons for feeling this way. First one, didn't like her neighbor anyhow. But the other reason she thought her neighbor was a hag is because her neighbor had never been known to work a day in her life. And yet she had a lot of cash. So the woman said, I bet my neighbor's a hag. And late one night, didn't see any activity at the neighbor's house. She thought she'd go over and see if she could prove it. So first she snuck around to the back of the house, goes up against the trees, figured nobody would see her, tried to get in the back door, but it was locked, shut, 2 deadbolts and a chain on it, couldn't get in. So she snuck around to the front of the house, looked around, didn't see anybody, tried to get in the front door. It was locked too. Almost gave up, but then she said to herself, I'm really doing this for the good of my community. So she went home, she got a screwdriver, she came back and she took the front door off the hinges. And then she went inside. She went from the front of the house to the back of the house, looking in the closets and the drawers under the beds, just looking for some proof that her neighbor was a hag. But she couldn't find anything until she turned to go. Because there, on a hook that had been behind the front door, was the neighbor's skin. She said, I knew it. I knew my neighbor was a hag, and she's probably out right now tormenting somebody. I'll fix her. So she ran home and she got a salt shaker, and she just all over the skin on the hook behind the door. Then she went home. In the wee hours of the morning, the neighbor came back from where she had been riding folk and tried to get in her skin, but she couldn't. She cried, Skin! Skin, you ain't to know me? Or Skin, don't you know me? But her skin didn't know her because it was salted. Later that same day, woman came back from next door, found the neighbor on the floor behind the door, dead. At least that's how I heard the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, there are other ways to protect yourself from a hag, because sometimes you don't have a salt shaker. Sleep with an open Bible in your room at night. The hag can't bother you because the hag must read the entire Bible backwards before the sun comes up. And I don't know if y'all can still see me. I can't see us, but we'll just keep talking. But most commonly, folks believe that if you have a broom, the hag cannot pass by a broom because not even in their human form, because they'll just have to pick up that broom and they'll have to just keep sweeping until they drop.
Yeah. There are lots of songs that were handed down sometimes, just made up on the spot. There was one that we would use in that Seattle montage performance, and here's how it goes. Kid bought the flour from Kapat. The powder she used was the rough-on rat. The man she baked the sweetest bread. Wounded too, but killed green dead. Oh, the possum laugh. Oh, the possum laugh. Gonna live a long time. Oh, the possum laugh. And that song was made up by a woman whose husband or lover was cheating on her.
That was Green.
And Green, what she did, she made him the sweetest bread. She baked some cake. But instead of using flour that she had borrowed, what she really borrowed from her cousin Pat was something called the rough on rat. Rat poison. And it wounded two who ate it, and it killed Green dead. And why did that possum laugh? Because Green had been a hunter, and he was a sure shot. So his death meant that that possum would live a whole lot longer.
So we are coming to the end. Once again, we don't know what's happening with our thing because all you see is sorry, we cannot play it, but I hope you can still hear it. So what we want to do is end with a song that was one of Ron's mother's favorite songs, and we've often ended with it. We have been blessed to have shared and immersed ourselves in traditional music for most of our life now. Mm-hmm. Preserving the stories and the songs of our ancestors for new generations, and also learning from the new generations. You know, we're now the old folk in the room, but there's still so very much meaning in the old songs, and so we'd like to close with Mama's favorite.
Will I come this far, find no fault, feel like journey on, come this far, find no fault, feel like journey on. You know I am sometimes up, I'm sometimes down, feel like journey on. Sometimes most level to the ground, feel like journey on. Feel like journey on.
So thank you for spending a half hour of your Friday evening with us.
As we come to the close of this performance in McKissick Museum's Quarantunes music series, we'd like to ask you to consider making a gift to McKissick Museum to support Quarantunes and other programs that support the continuation of these traditional art forms.
Please click the link in the video description to make a donation, and thank you for your support. And bye!
Bye!